Alex, I do need to talk to you 1 minute. I know you need to go, but I'll run and catch you there. I haven't finished. We'll call the meeting to order. It's the Monday, December 8th meeting of the Virginia-Highland Civic Association Board of Directors. Present are Paige, Lauren, Lola, Jennifer, John, Jack, Katie, and Angelica. And letting us know they could not be here are Colleen, David, and Jess. And Robin, right. So that is everyone. There's an agenda in front of you. Subject to the addition of the cases listed on the planning report, and I have a motion to adopt it.
So
Any comments? Without objection, it is adopted. I will add to it a financial report if you have one. If you don't, okay. And Sergeant Claxton, I think, would you like to speak to us specifically about the crime and law? Or are you here to talk about code enforcement?
I'm here for code enforcement.
All right, well, you know what? And out of respect for your time, we're still going to have you go right off the bat.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening. I'm Sergeant Claxton, and I'm assigned to the Atlanta Police Department Code Enforcement Unit. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with code enforcement, but sometimes there's a little discrepancy about what people think and what we actually do. So our main mission is to make sure that the properties within the city of in Atlanta are in compliance with what the city ordinances state. So with that being said, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of blighted properties throughout the city. You've seen some that may have been in that condition for several years or whatever, and you think we're not doing anything. That's not necessarily the case. It's a very long process. And the beginning of the process is trying to locate the owner or that person that's responsible for that property. And sometimes we have difficulty doing that. But once we locate that person, we go through the process of giving them an opportunity to comply the property. If they don't comply the property, then that's when we move forward with the citation and bring that on to court, and then it becomes the court's responsibility. So I'm here tonight to just introduce myself to you. I am available to you, give you my contact information. I may be reached by, my desk phone is 404-546-3808. My cell phone is 404-275-8598. And my email address is F as in Frank, Claxton, CLA, X as in X-ray, TON @atlanta.ga.gov. I'm not sure if you're also familiar with 311. We're not quite fully online with 311 right now. So if you have a complaint, you can call our office number, which is 404-546-3800 to report a code enforcement violation, or you have the opportunity to go online. If you go online to the city website and go to the police department and then go on the code enforcement, you can make a report that way under codes request.
Sergeant Claxton, thanks for coming. How did you have to come to our meeting tonight? Is it
Well,
just coincidence?
we've been tasked with making appearances at meetings, so I hadn't been to this area, so I said, well, let me stop by
We have a
this
huge
meeting.
history, and are you
Okay.
familiar with the cases in our area that we've been following, like flat hawks with broken wings? Because we can't do anything about it either.
No, but if you, I mean, at another
Okay, I'm
time.
not going to take up meeting here, but
Okay.
Ms. Berg may want to speak to you on outside the
Okay.
meeting. But we have a rich, recent history of dealing with one of your prosecutors, Lauren.
Okay. Lauren Clayton.
Yes, ma'am, thank you very much.
Okay.
And the other enforcement officer, no,
Jason-
Bales is gone.
Bale is gone, Jason Bale is gone.
His
Troy Mitchell.
successor, no, not Troy, his successor on the, I hate being old. His successor on the ground is who comes to our NPU meetings. You might want to coordinate with him too.
Is it
Because-
Everett?
I'm sorry?
Everett, Michael Everett, is that?
I'll tell you what, it's not, and
Okay.
I will just, it's not, I'm sorry to put you in the guessing game, it's my
That's
job.
okay.
But I would suggest you talk to them, because when they come every single MBU meeting, which is next Monday, we're glad to have you.
Okay.
And we would love to have you completely familiar with everything that's going on here. And
Okay.
I think they would welcome the assistance, and thank you very much for coming. Are there any specific questions for her? Do you want to speak to her outside? Thank you.
Step outside.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Thank you so much
All
for
right,
coming.
thank
We
you.
are
Go
glad
ahead.
to
Good
have you.
evening.
We would be glad to have you every single month, right here.
Okay,
Second
well, when I make my rounds, I'll come back. How's that?
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Councilmember Juan.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, it's been a few months since I've been here.
Couple things. The big game in town right now for Atlanta City Council is the infrastructure bond that we've been talking about for about 2 years now. The original list that got submitted by the administration was about $350 million. We're now down to the original proposed amount of $250 million. The project list continues to get refined. However, council has kind of made a stand on it. The original list when it came out was not particularly well distributed, let's put it that way. So the administration has put forward a new list or a new kind of calculation that has money in buckets. And right now, the total amount is $250 million, and it looks like maybe about $5 million per district of discretionary money, relatively discretionary. After you take out things like bridges and some of the citywide projects that have to be done for ADA reasons and safety reasons. So it looks like we may move that out of committee this week to be voted on full council meeting on January 5th. Still trying to keep it on track for a March 2015 referendum. So just kind of be on the lookout for more details on that. Public safety, there have been a number of crimes in the area recently, both Virginia-Highland and Morningside. A lot of them have been armed, like armed robberies. It's been very frightening, armed break-ins. Just want you to know that APD is on it. It's happening kind of in multiple places across the city. And what we're learning is that they're actually bouncing from zone to zone, which is kind of a new thing. But the police chief has created a new task force to deal directly and solely with this. And what they're doing is they're using as much technology and predictive technology as they can, and they're diverting or dedicating all their discretionary resources at it. They've made a couple of arrests over the last 2 weeks. Crimes seem to have gone down. But again, if anything happens, if you see anything suspicious, please call 911, because those become the leads that lead to the arrest. Even if they end up not being anything, whoever you're calling on isn't doing anything wrong, that's what the police are there to do, and they're happy to go check just to be safe. Jack is chuckling. And the last thing I have is just, I guess I've stayed in Council President Mitchell's good graces. I will be chair of Finance Exec again for 2015, and I'm actually glad to be in that position to watch over our tax dollars. So with that, I will open up to any questions anyone has, or find out what Jack is chuckling about.
So, can we see the list, the most recent list then?
So it's still kind of being churned into a form that we can distribute to everyone. And as soon as we can get it out, we'll send that out. Trust me, it's been a very interesting wrangling process with
I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything on this list that you think would be near and dear to our hearts that you would like to mention at this point, even though it's on final. If not, then I understand.
Mostly, it's mostly things like intersection improvements, traffic signals, signals for schools. So Inman and Grady, there's some signals that have to get replaced there. But we're trying to reserve as much money as we can for things like roads and sidewalks. So that's kind of where we're focused.
So,
Yes.
So Alex, for something like the signals that you just mentioned, signal at Inman, because that's in your district, would that come out of your $5 million discretionary fund?
That's the way we're trying. Yeah, that's where we're looking at right now. So we're trying to separate the things that have true citywide benefit and things like bridges that have such a high price tag on it that it really skews everything. But just take those off and then focus on what we can at the district level.
So we'll know before we vote on it
Yes.
in March as to what the full list is?
Yes. Yeah. And what we're also going to do is there'll be some flexibility off of that list. It's not like the transportation bond, penny sales tax that we voted on last time where you have to set the specific projects. This one you're really setting up buckets. A certain amount of it has to go to transportation, some of it has to go to road improvements and sidewalks. And then there'll be a little bit of flexibility. Because what we found during the quality of life bonds was that sometimes you can't get the project done in time, or they come out less expensive or more expensive than you originally planned or estimated. So you need a little bit of flexibility. But for the most part, substantively, it would all be there and before we vote. Anything else? Apologize, I can't stay. One of these
I'll catch up,
Yeah.
I'll walk you to the car, we'll take the meeting and we'll go from there.
But at one of these meetings, for those who may be curious, I'm happy to kind of talk about later the annexation conversations that are going on with our neighbors to the east.
We've
that might-
spoken to them and they're excited at the possibility of becoming part of the Virginia-Highland Civic Association.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Officer, sorry, I know you've been here before and I've forgotten your name, but nice
Lieutenant Floyd,
to see you. So
Okay.
come on up and,
I have the floor.
yes.
Okay, good evening. For the members here, I am Lieutenant Floyd, City of Atlanta Police Department, Zone 6 Precinct. I command the Crime Suppression Unit, which is a group of officers that respond to target areas that spike in crime and pretty much suppress the criminal element in those areas. My apologies for being late. I know that one of you all's biggest concerns in the Virginia-Highlands community is one vehicle breaking in. We've had a number in the past 28 days. 2 homeless issues and 3 code enforcement. That's the reason why I brought Sergeant Claxton of the code enforcement unit along tonight, but she beat me here. I wasn't able to introduce her and throw it to her. But I have emailed those 2 property issues that you had, and I see that another one of your board members will actually speak with her in detail now. So hopefully we can work to get those issues addressed. As far as crime in the last 28 days, we've had a couple robberies, one particularly on Virginia Avenue. A resident walking home from the bar in the retail district and was robbed at gunpoint. Don't really have details on the follow-up investigation on that, but typical MO, target patrons of the restaurants and bars coming home late night and pretty much rob the victim of a cell phone, wallet, and wedding ring. We also had a robbery on Briarcliff, which the victim's car stalled out, and he was, of course, robbed at gunpoint as well. So I know it may be alarming, but this is the time of the year that we see those types of crimes. As I reminded you guys last meeting, just please be aware of your surroundings. Please don't be distracted by your cell phones and electronic devices, because the criminals do prey on those people that are distracted and not aware of their surroundings. One of the things that we are encouraging people to do is to make sure that you have the most recent and updated tracking on your phone, and make sure that your tracking is activated and working. What we found in a lot of these cases is tracking is probably one of our best leads to catch these criminals, but a lot of people have a $1,000 phone but don't have the tracking software, or don't have it activated, or don't have the most recent software, which Apple has. Most recent software it doesn't allow the criminal to power the device down. In the past, once the device was powered down, then it would no longer be able to be tracked. But once the tracking is activated, the criminal can't power the device down, so it stays on until the battery life is gone. So we're encouraging everybody to get the most updated tracking software, especially on your Apple products, because those are pretty much the most stolen devices per se. Also, just encourage your neighbors as they're patronizing the businesses along the Virginia-Highland, Virginia corridor. If they see any suspicious activity, report it to the police. Make sure that we're cleaning the passenger compartments of our vehicles out, because our crime in the Virginia-Highlands, believe it or not, we have some spread out, but our clusters of crime are from Highland to along the corridor. When you look at the crimes on the map, the crimes are along Highland to Virginia and you know, maybe three blocks east and west on Virginia Avenue. So it's, you know, it's right there where, you know, you have the most visitors to the community. We have sporadic problems here and there, but typically that's where we see the most of our problems. So we have our holiday detail starting, where Virginia-Highlands is one of our target areas for our holiday detail. So you should see more officers on the street, just depending on how many officers capitalize on the opportunity to work overtime. But Virginia-Highlands is one of our target areas for either foot beat or just some extra patrol.
So Lieutenant Floyd, you know, most of those violent crimes that the council member mentioned weren't in Virginia-Highland to start with. They were either further in Morningside to start with. But I mean, do y'all actually think the people that he mentioned that were arrested are the ones that were possibly involved? Any specific reason to think that? Were they caught doing that, or are you just hoping? It's okay if you're hoping.
Most times when we catch criminals, even in other zones, we try to connect them with criminals.
I know, have you been able to do that?
I don't have any
Okay,
specific details on that,
okay.
but hopefully, we're able to connect.
Let us know if you get them. Are there any other specific questions we thank you for coming. Did you skip other meetings to get to us before?
No, I just came to you all first this time. Yes,
I
ma'am.
just have a quick one. I do notice, I live on Virginia, I'm down there in the middle, but I see a lot of, you know, homeless walking around, and here lately they've been yelling. And I know a couple of them, and I've tried to be really friendly with them. I don't think they bug us, but when they're yelling like that, am I calling that in? Because one guy just got in a mom and a daughter's face and just started yelling obscenities, and it was just really making me feel uneasy, you know? I don't want to say anything to him at that point.
Yes, you should definitely call the police, and I mean, because they could be disorderly under the influence or disorderly conduct. If they're acting in a manner in which places somebody in fear of their safety, then I mean, that's disorderly conduct. That's a violation of city ordinance. So you definitely want to get the police involved.
I'm just seeing a lot more now, I guess.
And the thing with homeless, how can I say this?
I have a
mean,
bum, I
It's
have a
okay,
really sad
we've said it
bum,
many
so-
times, we got it.
Yeah, I mean,
We got it.
if you're nice, they will continue to come around. That's what I'll say.
We are nice, we will continue to be nice, they will continue to come around.
That's right.
That is a
That's right.
25-year truism, and I don't think we're changing it anytime.
But you know, like I say, a lot of the crimes that you all experience are crimes of opportunity, and the homeless will capitalize. Even though I'm not saying the homeless is 100% responsible for the crime.
Actually, Lieutenant Sherbaum, not to disagree with you, but Lieutenant Sherbaum has often opined that there is very poor statistical correlation between any kind of significant crime and the homeless. Do you disagree with the lieutenant?
I'm just saying, I'm not saying that they're 100%
We know that.
responsible for the crime, but when there's an opportunity and you don't have, you capitalize on that opportunity. So if it's a laptop or it's an iPhone or whatever it is of value, the item of value in plain view in the passenger compartment of the vehicle, and I'm homeless and I'm looking for my next meal, I would be compelled to bust the window, take the device, and take it to Kroger to the Eco ATM and get cash for it. So I have nothing to lose.
Any other questions for
Yes.
Lieutenant Ford? Go
Do
ahead.
y'all have any stats on the success rate of catching armed robbers?
Well, I mean, we catch robbery perpetrators, I mean, on a regular basis. You know, what the department has established, because we've seen so many robberies, you know, towards the end of 2014, the chief has developed what's called a complex robbery unit. And pretty much it's a representative from each zone there, assigned to the unit to investigate a lot of these robberies and to connect these robberies, because of course we all have boundaries and we all know boundaries as far as Zone 6, Virginia-Highlands, but the criminals know no boundaries. And you know, they don't know boundary lines. So, the unit has had a lot of success. You know, but it's just, you know, like, I mean, you catch one, but it's, you know, several others out.
Does that unit focus only on armed robberies, or is it also home break-ins, burglaries, things of that
Anything that's
nature?
classified as a robbery.
That
Anything
includes a
that's classified-
burglary? That would be a No?
That's not,
Okay.
that's not a
Okay.
burglary. A burglary is not considered a robbery
Gotcha.
unless somebody enters your home by force and either draws a weapon
Okay.
or punch.
So it's that personal confrontation that
Exactly.
becomes the robbery? Okay.
Exactly.
Any other?
Lastly, I would like to mention, because the major and the captain is making sure that I mentioned the toy drive that Zone 6 precinct is having. I don't know if you guys have.
Where do we take the toys? What's the-
John Wolfinger's house.
Really?
Say it again?
John Wolfinger's taking truckloads of stuff down to Zone 6. I know he went down there twice today. He's collecting
Oh,
toys
really?
on the front yard of
Okay,
his.
well, we're collecting up until December 17th.
Okay.
And we're adopting families in the zone to donate the toys to. So if
Great, thank you.
you, so if you want to donate a new toy, please do that before December 17th. And if you have a family that you would think need to be adopted by the Zone 6 precinct, do forward that information either to me or to the major. My email address is dfloyd@atlantaga.gov. All right?
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for catching us on the early end.
Okay.
Take care, Lieutenant. Be safe. All right, we're on to planning. We're going to do them in the numerical order they were submitted, which makes Mr. Fiata is our first. Lee, you're up. Okay. You spelled your last name?
Fiata. Lee Fiata.
Yeah, you got it.
We were doing a project at 780 Brett Bridge, and it requires us to remove the existing roof. We're putting it back on exactly as is. There's no change in height. However, we wanted to go through the variance process and make sure that we got the variance, since the city is looking closely at that and making sure that you know, if the roof comes back off and goes back on exactly as is, that we have that. So the existing home is non-conforming, and the front porch is in the setback, and the one side is in the setback as well. So that portion of the roof is staying the same, but we will be doing that work in the setback. So that's why we're requesting the variance.
Yeah, if you can mention the specific variances, start with the ones you're requesting for openers.
Yes, you want the numbers?
No. Front yard setback from 35 required to 31 existing, is that correct?
Yeah, the front.
Already existing.
Yeah, specifically the front yard setback from 35 feet to 29.2 feet, and the east side yard setback from 7 feet to 4.9 feet.
This is 29.
And this is variance B-14-267.
And both existing, and if you, when you mention that, it really just.
Yeah, it's non-conforming home already.
Existing lot coverage at 27% doesn't change.
No, lot coverage doesn't change. We're not really doing any site work or work outside the footprint of the existing home, with the exception of the rear deck is being taken off and replaced with a slightly larger deck.
So the relevant issues on the site visit, Lola, is that we have noted here where stormwater continues to flow to the backyard as it does now, so there are no stormwater issues, so
That's correct, yeah, all the grades staying exactly as is.
no trees will be removed, but the applicant say that the existing roof would be removed by hand, and therefore you'll take great care and
And
solicitude
protecting that
about
large
keeping that
tree.
tree out front protected.
And then your letters, if you don't mind, I didn't check them off before. If you'll just bring them up to me, I'll just make my notes while the rest of them.
And so you'll give us the motion while you're at it?
Move to approve V 14-267 based on the site plans. Do you have it stamped and dated?
They're in the bottom next sentence down.
11/10/14. And
That's all right.
looking at these notifications, it should be fine.
And complete notification to members. Any questions from anybody? Any questions about what the planning committee saw? All right, I'll second the motion. Is there any discussion at all? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous, sir. We'll see you, you realize next week it's moved across from Fat Matt's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I'll stop in for dinner there first.
Maybe you should get us one more. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. 1069 Hudson Drive has been deferred a month, and we're on to 706 Virginia Avenue.
706 Virginia is just reducing the rear yard setback from 15 to 11 and a half to allow for an existing swimming pool. And that's really kind of it. Jack, I think what I want to do, if you don't mind, can I amend the rear deck to remove that additional?
Yes, that's fine. That'll do that. If you'll, okay, are you going down to the City Hall this week?
I am. I had to go to City Hall.
So, I mean, it only takes, what, a couple of hours typically, so if you can,
I'll do that. I'll get you an updated site plan.
that would be good. If you'll update the site plan, show the removal of 50 additional feet of rear deck, and that way, that was the only issue. The lot coverage is decreasing.
What address?
I'm sorry.
706 Virginia Ave. She's got the whole.
I'm 765, I was like, is this my new neighbor or what?
706, there's an
Okay.
existing unpermitted pool that the applicant is doing the right thing and showing up to permit the pool, so good for him. Thanks, Lee, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Joking about the dude, Lauren points out, he cannot bring us even one sandwich. However.
Ribs would be okay.
Um, we didn't identify the ferns growing in the back room inside the house, but we've got, okay. He's got 2 new flow wells in the front, the house is coming down, 2 new flow wells in the front. I wrote it as gently sloping toward Virginia, I think that's right. And you'll catch the water there, and that's basically it, I think. I mean, I think it's really solid, there are no tree issues, and there's a little discrepancy between the Bureau buildings and site development about what constitutes impervious, so if you can get that out of there, that'll just end that entire discussion, and that would be outstanding.
And just so the board knows, this is actually Russell Blake.
Great. Awesome.
You don't see him this don't see me.
Glad to meet you, we certainly know Joe well, so thanks.
We already have all of the letters from.
Okay, so I think we've got everything. Lola, a motion?
Yeah, move to approve V14-272 based on site plan stamped and dated 11/17/14, and do you want additional?
No, if we've got the neighbors, we just remove that out of there.
Okay.
I'll change that. I second. Is there any further discussion or questions from anyone? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And opposed, it's fine. We'll see you next week. Across from, it's in the building behind at the church. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, good to meet you. V14-277, 673 Crest Hill. Mr. Arnold.
There's not to scale drawings. I know Jack will have some, and Jennifer's seen it. If you want to see it closer than there. This is similar to Lee's. The existing house encroaches in the front yard setback. Crest Hill's at the top of the page. We're reframing the roof at unlike Lee's, we're reframing it at a steeper pitch. This is the front of the house now. That's a side view, if you can see it. That's proposed side elevation, proposed front elevation. We're adding a dormer on the front. So the dormer in the front is in the existing setback. It's the light gray area here, and that necessitates the front yard variance request from 35 feet to 24. Existing, yeah. And then on the side is a foot, actually 1 foot 4 inches here. We're actually not building out anything there, but because we're reframing the roof, it's that little piece there on the opposite side. Because we're reframing it at a steeper pitch, then the city sees that as potentially increasing floor area ratio, or floor area. So that's necessitating the side variance from the required 7 to, they wrote it up as 1. It's actually 1.4.
Let's just leave it at 1.
Lot coverage and floor area ratio are okay at 40. We're going from 40.8% to 41.4 on lot coverage and 19.2 to 40.9 on floor area ratio. So an increase, but within the parameters allowed. Laylee, my client Laylee, who was at the meeting last week and at the site visit, she got 3 letters, and then today she did the rest
Is that all?
in the, with the proof of mailings.
Okay.
So Mark, so we made some additional observations.
Trees.
I do, well, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I talked to Frank Mobley. There's a 28-inch hardwood here. It's a pecan thing. And we're right on the cusp of the structural root plate. He said it's around 9 feet. The house, if you measure straight across, it's 8.5 feet. He wasn't going to make a call just based on photograph and drawings. He said he'd send out Peter Stovall, but even with that, it's the critical root zone that he's probably more concerned about as am I, and that's it now, the bigger circle. I haven't crunched the numbers. I'm not hopeful that tree's going to stay, but Laylee and Jeff definitely want to plant at least one, if not a couple trees back here, where I think after the fact, she told me there were 2 trees that were hit by lightning that came down less than a year ago, and they do want to plant back something.
So we wrote this up in a way that said you would deal with the arborist, you might pay recompense, you might pay recompense and leave it, you might pay recompense and remove it,
Right.
but you would likely plant at least one new tree at the rear of the sunny part.
Yeah,
So
at least
that's a
one.
fair summary, that's all good.
Yeah.
Okay, and somebody added here that this design concept is sensitive to the historic scale of the neighborhood residents, quite distinct from the full 2-story plan extrusions often seen.
That sounds like Chip writing.
But it's complimentary, so I thought I would bring it to your attention.
I'll take it. Thank you, Chip.
Are there questions or thoughts here?
The only question I have is, Mark, I looked on Crest Hill, I had noted that you might need 677 and 676.
It can't be, it's got to be different, Chris Hill.
So across the street, I asked her to get 3. 677 is next to her, and that should be in the form of a letter. And then I think she did proof of mailing for 667. Or maybe, I may have it flipped.
I don't see 677 Crest Hill, or 676. Let's see.
Well,
Sorry, I know.
667, so this top letter is 667, which is the house to the right.
I got that one.
Okay. And then 677, she couldn't get in touch with them. Is there not a proof of mailing for it?
No.
Okay, then I need to get that from her.
Okay, can you just take care of that?
Yeah, and look to see,
Yeah, no, I should.
676 and 677.
Okay, so what was the
Okay.
committee recommendation? Make a motion
Move to approve V14-277 based on the site plans dated
here. 11/19/14.
Good.
11/19/14. And were there any conditions out of it?
Well, provision of completion of the things, if you can take care of that, we'll put that on there.
Of those two, 677 and 676. Crest Hill.
Any questions? Well, I'll second the motion. All in favor, if there are no more remarks, please raise your hand. And it's unanimous. So you know where the church.
Yeah, Rock Springs Church?
Right, in the rear.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay,
Good to see you.
you too.
Thanks for being a part of the tour, by the way.
Oh, I was happy to do it. I went by the Lees after hanging up with you.
No, we'll discuss that at another time, I'm sure.
Yeah, they
We're
did a little
gonna
more.
move right on to V14-281, 629 Crest Hill, applicant Jennifer Budson on behalf of owners Drew and Jennifer Keenan. Ms. Keenan, would you like to step away from the table?
Yes.
And join the audience for this?
Hello, everyone. I am happy to say that we will be the proud owners tomorrow. That's why we were not listed as the applicants. But we are doing a renovation to a house on Crest Hill, and we are seeking a variance for the front yard setback from 35, I think, to 31. And the portion of the house that is in the front yard setback is an attic, and it will only have slightly less than a 7-foot high roof, and it's going to be a little playroom in there. So it will be finished. Lot coverage is going from 40.4% to 39.9%. Floor area ratio is going from 24.8% to 46.9%. No trees are going to be impacted, and we do not need a variance for either side setback or the rear setback. So the only variance is for this little section of the attic that is going to be in the front yard setback. I previously provided proof of notification for all of the Crest Hill neighbors, and I sent this attached letter to the 3 houses on Coolidge, and I have an affidavit for proof of mailing, because my office, that's how they have to do it. It was mailed through my office, not directly through the post office.
Do you need this back or?
So that's it. Any questions? And I have the plans if anyone wants to.
So let's see, we did not see any tree issues on this. Stormwater, it's a relatively flat lot. Water flows gently to the bank. It should not change. The notes in the report indicate there's a huge stand of non-native bamboo at the bank, which the applicant said they would hope to address in the future, but it's not going to be required by the city. And for the time being, it's stable, at least, and does pull off some water, but even if it's not totally desirable. I'll admit, I'm sorry, I left off the lot coverage. I left it blank. I'm supposed to go back and get it, and I will put it in now. So, Lola, we have a motion.
Move to approve B14-281 based on the site plan standard dated 11/19/14.
Is there, I'll second. Is there any further discussion or thoughts here? All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Please note that neither the applicant, obviously, nor Mr. Bullock participated in this decision committee level. And I think that concludes the planning report, if I'm not mistaken.
Just 1 second, Jack.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can catch up. What is the date of the site plan?
11/19/14 is what I think it showed. Do I have that wrong?
No, I just didn't have it.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a copy of this report? It was sent to you on the, as a board member this morning.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll revise it for the MPU. I think that's it for this, and we can move on to the fundraising committee tour of homes report.
I really wish this place was filled right now. Because
No good deed goes
I am
unpunished.
on the mission to get this room filled, okay? But bottom line, we killed it. And I just want to let y'all know that we had an amazing weekend despite Saturday's rain. I mean, we actually sold more tickets. I mean, we did better than last year already on Saturday. So Sunday was gravy. Like a totally gravy train, and you know the weather we had. So just I have some raw figures because we still have to, do some costs and so forth. But the bottom line is it looks like we're just popping over 61K.
For gross income.
Gross income, and last year it was 51K. So we increased it another $10,000, which I'm pretty proud of because 3 years ago when we did this, we had like 17,000.
Wow.
So in 3 years, it's gone from $17,000, gross to 61. So now I'm kind of thinking I might want to do something else. Don't know yet, but my whole committee this year was just amazing. We worked well together as a team. There were just shy of 15 people. Everybody did their part. I did not have to handhold, babysit, nothing. I mean, everybody was present at meetings, and we're going to meet next Wednesday, or next Monday night. Because since it's fresh in our mind, we want to get out, you know, our observations and anything that we could do better for next year, or suggestions, archive that and move forward. Because the one thing we think gave us this much success is that we pre-planned and advertised a lot sooner. Even 2 weeks sooner, we think did the trick this year. Because we were slammed with another year that Thanksgiving, and then 1 week later was the tour. So there wasn't a lot in between a Thanksgiving holiday to go charge. So we did 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving marketing. And I personally think it worked. I mean, look at solid pour down rain and people were showing up. I mean, we had 50 walk-in sales in the pouring rain. So that was really good. And really, I've gotten feedback already saying that the houses were wonderful. One person did say we would like to have seen more traditional type bungalows. With our crowd, I have to say I'm glad we had the houses we did, because it just was a better flow through, and it was packed yesterday. I got to go on one bigger house and it was like this. I mean, so I think we're at capacity with what our neighborhood could support with 7 houses on the tour. We may want to look at that, increasing houses for next year even. But we had 75 sponsors versus 30 sponsors. So our sponsorships grew huge. And I think it's because we're hot. I mean, Virginia-Highlands is like the place where everyone wants to move and renovate and all that good stuff. So I'm really happy about it. And that's all I can say for now until I get more juice. But you know, if you have anything that you want to add or give me any feedback or anything you heard from any tour goers or your experience volunteering, I really want your email. Just a small something that I can give on Monday night. But anyway, it was awesome.
Angelica, I have a comment. I mean, first of all, congratulations.
Yeah.
It was an awesome day, and I worked yesterday. But speaking of the crowds, the house I was at definitely became overcrowded.
Yeah.
And was beyond capacity. And it would be good to give the volunteers some techniques or tools to deal with that, because I was in the upstairs and I couldn't even get downstairs, but when I did get downstairs, I asked the person at the front door to stop letting people in, and she was irate. We cannot do that. We cannot let people stand outside. I said, well, this is a fire code violation, so
Yeah,
we
it
need to
really,
be
I needed
mindful
to
of
know that. I would bring that up on Monday. The house that I was in was Lanier, Joe Lester's house, and it was really slam packed. And I wouldn't have minded waiting outside for 10 minutes.
Right.
So
And there was
definitely want to talk
it
about
was sunny on Sunday, and there was a covered porch. I mean, it was a pleasant place to wait, but I kind of received some pushback.
I'm wondering if
about
I'm going to hear this
not
from the
letting
restaurants, because I noticed that not a
people-
lot of people were sampling food either, because you're like this, so you're like this.
Yeah.
So I want to see who else thought that. I'm getting feedback from the restaurants tomorrow.
Well, I think by Sunday also, the key houses, the word got out, you have to go to these couple
Yeah,
of key
there's
houses.
some,
So those were more crowded than some of the others, because I didn't go to those, and the crowds weren't as big as some of the others.
Yeah, every other house I visited was fine, but my house that I worked was crazy.
Virginia Circle was actually quite reasonable, and so I do think it was highly variable. I have a feeling about time. I just looked at the next 3 years, because I know you've got a group working on Tour 2017. So it turns out that the same, with only the exception of 2016, the next 5 years are all the week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So
So
that's going to be the norm.
Yeah, and I'm totally fired up for that. I think it works out really well. And it does well with all of our marketing pieces and, you know,
Getting people here to shop, all that.
the whole neighborhood benefits. I saw a ton of people shopping yesterday. I can't wait to call the stores. I'm dying to know about that, because not a lot of stores participated. And hopefully they will see that this is a viable event, so. Anyway, if you have anything else, please email me. I really would
Well,
love to.
we'll add a congratulations, and I'll also say that Lola, who's done much more of keeping up with this on a week-to-week
Yes.
basis, has talked about the excellent spirit and camaraderie among the group this year. Not that others weren't great, but this one's really stood
I
out.
hope everyone stays. I'm so scared for Monday's meeting that people are gonna be like, by the way, I'm gone. So give me some prayers for Monday night.
We have a great process and template now, and I think that even if you, that's what we've been saying about committees
We
all
have
along.
research.
You need
Yeah.
a robust committee, and you need to train the new people coming in, and
Yes.
everyone needs to keep that in mind so that you don't leave behind anyone that can't really have a good process.
Well, speaking of other activities on Saturday, Ms. Carlisle?
So with the fire station, a lot of people very active right now, working on fire station renovations. Catherine Lewis, who's going to be joining our committees, is a go-getter, and she has a very strong preservation background. She's been helping the firemen to see what renovations they need to do, just to make sure that that building is preserved, so that as we move forward and plans are made for the building, that we know that it's protected. It's not one that could be looked at to say, oh, it's a candidate for replacement. So knowing that that was going on, my office loves to do programs for the neighborhood when we do our holiday giving. The office just said, we want to do something for the fire station. I didn't say I didn't want to, they just convinced me we should do it. So the Santa-thon happened there, and it was the first one we've ever done. We put it together in short order. Didn't have the best weather, but it still was well attended. The smiles of the kids watching Santa arrive, to be there by a red fire truck with all these just amazingly nice firemen. It was so heartwarming. The firemen came out in the back, the area in the back, and kids were doing activities. But Santa was like working out with one of the fitness trainers that's moving into the neighborhood. We were stretching. They're like, we feel like the neighborhood just used us as a destination experience for the day. They loved it. So we're still raising funds after the fact by following up with people, but $2,600 for the fire station. In Osteria, we connected with Osteria Breakfast with Santa so that we could have more impact, and I understand they raised like $5,500 for the fire station. At that location, they also do the Grant Park Fire Station and raised money for that. So it was just a bustling weekend. It was really fun.
It was fun and amazing. What was the process there? Were you just asking for donations as people came, or did they have to like buy a ticket to go, or?
We did suggested donations for the activities. We had kids making ornaments, writing letters to Santa. We had people pick a time slot for a picture, and we just requested donations, and of course everyone did.
Yeah.
And the activities, making cookies, and we roasted s'more time with Santa at the end. And left the firemen, we had some extra wood. They're like, could you leave us some wood? They hung out by the fire, behind the fire station.
So
for the
they're
rest
Tommy's
of the-
thing.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Tommy has a fire pit that's about 2/3 the diameter of this room. It's ridiculous. I'm surprised they didn't bring the hoses out.
It was kind of funny. We're like, I was like, do you need any paper to light this fire? And they're like, just let us.
We know how to deal with the fire.
Well, a great weekend for everybody, it's going to be, I can't wait for Summerfest.
When? What's that?
Wait. Do we have to raise it more money? Oh my God, I can't beg for any more money.
We had a little break.
I gotta make some
We
money.
do get to catch our breath just for a while before Summerfest, which is probably a good
We
thing.
get to get through
Or
Christmas.
get through holidays. All right, financial report, Peggy.
So we have just over $250,000 in our bank accounts, of which about $120,000 is restricted. So we have enough money there for our ongoing projects and our budget, and for the money that we need to roll into Summerfest and have the right cash flow available. On income this year, I was kind of interested that Summerfest looks like it came in at about $163,000 net this year, which is up from last year.
How much?
When we looked at the very preliminary numbers, it looked like we might be down to a rate. So when the
163.
What was the increase
163
from last year
net,
though? What's the increase?
last year net was 154.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, and I think Pam thinks that's going up 3 or 4 or 5 or 6,000. I don't know if that's gonna, but we'll see.
Up from the 163?
Yeah, I'm not sure it will, but we'll see. She's noted a few things, but
So
we'll
a
see.
few receivables.
Right. Maybe.
But
They'll show up next year, but they are from this year.
So I thought that was great, and on the expenditure side, we've actually spent more this year than we took in, so we have a net loss of about 103,000, which is what we planned. We had an accumulation of money that we needed to invest. We invested a chunk of it in paying down the loan, which we've paid down, where's that number, about $90-some thousand. Paid down the loan about $90,000. We've invested considerably in the parks, particularly John Howell Park.
Well,
And
actually,
we
we have an
spent some money
outstanding,
on
we have a
consultants.
receivable there of almost $50,000 as well. So that figure is, go
It's
ahead,
about,
Still,
it's what it is now,
Right.
and
minus, right? The net, the difference in the income we're gonna get in, maybe after the first, but we'll get in 45,000 at least on John Howell from Park Ride that we've already prepaid.
great. And then our other big expense was planning between the master plan and the money that we've got going on the Tremont Park event study. So we're spending exactly where we planned to spend and in the amounts that we had planned to spend, and it's good.
And the return on that is like the MasterCard there. It's priceless. Well, thank you very much. I mean, I think it's been an astonishing calendar year. We tend to think of it, at least I do, in terms of board years, but either way, it was fantastic on both. And this didn't hurt our field this weekend, didn't hurt anybody's opinion of anything, so well done. A quick report of John Howell Park, because David's not here. So the fence is up in John Howell Park.
It looks
Great.
beautiful.
We have not received a bill for it, but we will, and of which we will IF.
I think the new
it's good.
sign placement looks really good. too,
It looks
right there
so
by that-
good.
Right there by that plaza.
We need to go scrub it good, but given that it no longer
It's a little
rains,
warm.
it no longer rains in Atlanta, so it's hard to do. We need to do it during the rain, but I think it looks fine. And by the way, that's the old style sign. And some parts of the city is, they occasionally talked about when Lauren and I were visiting them on this,
it was like 2
replacing it.
years ago though.
Yeah, that's right.
Good design.
It's no longer the Bureau of Cultural Affairs that's on there. I sort of like it. I think it's kind of cute. We're gonna paint the back of it black, the part that faces to the city, and I think we're gonna put up plaques to the Parks Committee and to the board.
I knew that was coming.
Or
Bronze,
Yeah.
suitable bronze.
Or the tracker.
It's a joke, it's a joke. We got enough plaquing this year.
What about lighting, John Howell?
Well, in fact, since you brought that up, the Parks Department was there today at 5:15. They have to rework a ton of the ballasts in those old pieces one by one. They're switching them over to better lighting, and they just have to go in there with the ladders, one by one, and stand up on those daggum ladders. It's painstakingly slow and difficult. And they were working on the one at the De Leon entrance today, and they'll be there all week, so stop and thank them, because it's a pain in the rear.
I do think everybody will walk by.
Yeah,
They
they're
work
trying,
hard this
they're
summer.
trying. And the electrical boxes with all the tape on your end of it are coming out.
Yeah.
They just-
So when it's like just dangling there, that's
It's
good.
coming out.
And what about the plaza? It's the plaza area?
No, well, that's one of the, there's a couple of unresolved issues. We'll see how those get resolved, but basically, I think that by and large, it's been a large success. A few details to work out and more landscaping to go in over the next 2 months. And then it'll
It's gonna look
spring
even
over.
better,
It'll
so.
really look
It
good.
looks really good. That's a great job.
Well,
I know it's
Did-
taken a long time and a lot of
we
patience.
didn't want to rush. We were careful.
Very deliberate
Uh-uh.
about everything.
With much- with much help from all the different bodies that we worked with who encouraged us, helped us in our deliberations. Do we have any calendar updates? I do want to remind us, we have the Parks Committee has prepared, I'll say on behalf of David, an expenditure out proposal for Orem John Howell next year, and I'll circulate it, and it's not immodest. Now that John Howell is structurally in good shape, we're contemplating, the board will see details, taking on the removal of the ivy, our most obnoxious non-native in there, putting in native ferns, preventing people from going up and down the bank while those grow in, possibly forever. And
Tripwires.
just a suggestion. Wish you hadn't said that, because that's, I'm afraid, but in any case, and then trying to work on the landscaping of the banks along Virginia on the eastern half of the park, the upper level, to prevent that from eroding as it does. And but I really do think there has been work done. The grass has been reseeded, aerated, and fertilized appropriately in the last month. And I really do think the park has a visible plan. If we need to write it up so that everybody can walk around and look at it, but it really does have a plan in place, and it's beginning to take shape. Even I can see it occasionally. So.
Jack, do you think you're gonna have some kind of small neighborhood ribbon cutting or something?
We will probably in the spring when the weather is better. We'll have an event with Park Pride out there and the Parks Commissioner, and we'll unveil the plaque. We will.
And what about the statue?
It'll be a statue of a volleyball player,
No,
going.
it won't.
No, well, they didn't contribute.
Like this. They did contribute some.
Oh, did they?
Some. They could. It's a work in progress.
Jack, I know we've discussed this in the past, but one of the things to put on the item of improvements for John Howell is the playground surface. And hopefully the Parks Department would do that, but have we made any formal requests? Is there anything that we can do as a civic association to help prioritize that in the city?
There is something we can do, but I
Or has it been done? Has any request or any?
We've talked to them about it. They do not think it is a severe problem, and on their bucket list, at least 9 months ago when Lauren and I had that conversation with them, they thought it was entirely adequate and was nearing the period of time when it might need to be contemplated to be put on a list. Is that vague enough? But it wasn't exactly, I don't think anybody walked out of that park on their behalf thinking it's a problem. So,
Well, interestingly, I'm very familiar with playground surface standards. And you know, there are mandatory, basically bounciness standards, federal standards. So it's not just a matter of, oh, I think this looks okay, maybe it's not okay. There's actually an objective standard that can be done
And is the
to
service in John Howell
determine.
Park not adequate?
The testing hasn't been done. You have to hire an engineering firm.
actually,
Is there concern
I don't think
that
they
it is-
agree with you at all. And unless you have analyzed their report, they have a playground safety committee. They went around 10 years ago and did a report on every playground surface. I'm not commenting on any of that, but I would just say that's something that unless one has actually done a formal study.
No,
on.
that's what I'm saying. To hire an engineering firm, it's about $500 to have an engineering firm and come out and test the surface. And I'm not saying we hire the engineering firm, but I think we can make that request. It's not enough for them to say we think it's okay. You know, there needs to be, if there were no test or no way to evaluate it, that's great.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we ask them for their formal opinion and what it's based on?
Okay.
Because I am unwilling to assume that it is just somebody walking by thinking that it is when they have.
Or yeah, ask to see when it was tested. I mean, it's supposed to, yeah, when it was tested, what the test results were. Yeah, how they're basing their analysis that it's adequate.
That surface that you're talking about was installed as a result of their study 12 years ago. Before that, they used strips and mulch everywhere. Then they moved to that surface.
So the surface lasts 5 years. That's the problem.
And it's 12 years
It's
old.
not. It is not a permanent surface. It has about a 5-year
Life expectancy is 5 years and it's 12 years old.
We don't.
I'd say it should be looked at.
Yeah, if one knew that to be correct, one would be correct in saying that. I'm just urging that we proceed in a matter of a due process by asking them to proceed in an orderly way and not stating that it is X when it should be Y, when we actually
No,
know
all
that
I'm
it's X or Y.
saying is, yeah, ask what their opinion's based
I will be
on,
glad to
and
do
if it
that.
hasn't been tested,
I'll
it
be
should
glad
be
to
tested.
copy you on that. We'll write them a note. We'll write them a note and say,